Danforth Center. Now, whether this is your first time here or your 40th time here, whether you're here in person or virtually, we are so glad you could be a part of tonight's festivities. Now, the Conversation series is meant to be a great way for you to see how the Danforth Center and its many partners are changing the world for the better. And tonight, we have a very special conversations because we're not just going to talk about the future of agriculture, but we're going to talk about the future of geospatial technology and the future of St. Louis. And we're thrilled to welcome two of the leading scientists involved with that future. First is Dr. Vasit Segan, who is the Associate Professor of Earth and Atmospheric Science at St. Louis University, and he is also the Acting Director of the Taylor Geospatial Institute. We also have our very own Allison Miller, who is a Principal Director here at the Danforth Center and is a Professor of Biology at St. Louis University. Now, our moderator tonight is Jason Hall. His name may sound familiar because he is also CEO of Greater St. Louis, Inc., and he's a member of the Danforth Leadership Council. Now, before we begin, I just want to thank everybody involved with tonight, especially our Friends Committee, who have long been dedicated to this series, and also want to thank our media partners, HEC TV. And speaking of HEC, this program is being recorded, and it is going to premiere on the HEC channel on Sunday night, April 16th at 5 o'clock, and then each Saturday morning at 7 a.m. and Sunday evening at 10 p.m. through the end of May. Now, if you are inspired by what you see and hear tonight, then I encourage you to check out our website at danforthcenter.org. Or even better, how about you come back? How about you come for a behind-the-scenes tour or otherwise get involved in the center? Now, you may not know, but Danforth is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And the science and achievements that are coming out of this place would not happen if it were not for support from folks like yourselves. Now, we are going to have a Q&A session tonight, and you all should have a little Q&A card. And if you want to ask a question, fill out that card, and you can hand it to one of the people in the aisle. Or, if you are tech savvy, you can tweet your question to @DanforthCenter, #ConvoSTL. And with that, it is my pleasure to turn the program over to Jason Hall.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome everyone tonight to the Danforth Center. I am really excited for this conversation. I would also be remiss if I did not say happy opening day to everyone who celebrates. That should be everyone, I hope. Although I haven't checked the scores lately, so I'm not sure. But happy opening day to everyone. It is exciting. The topic of this conversation is absolutely critical to the future of St. Louis. Because in addition to opening day, some of the local news coverage is about the need for this region to grow. And we are going to do so by being globally excellent, having confidence, and certainly through the power of science and technology that takes place from St. Louis. Having this conversation here tonight is personally meaningful to me because it was as a young lawyer who saw Dr. Danforth putting forth this vision and being unapologetic about St. Louis being globally excellent in science and leading industries, and that being key to our future relevance, that I was inspired to a life of civic service. So with that, we're going to kick off this conversation with the experts tonight on these critical topics of geospatial and agtech and the exciting convergence that's taking place between the two of them. So with that, Vasit, let's start with you. I know geospatial is a new term for a lot of folks. You may have heard about the NGA and its almost $2 billion headquarters that it's building in North City, St. Louis, or perhaps as we come up on the one-year anniversary of the Taylor Geospatial Institute, or any number of ways, people are hearing a lot about geospatial. Help us understand, though, for those of us that aren't scientists, what is geospatial technology?
Thank you, Jason. Good evening, friends, colleagues, and guests. I am truly honored to be here today to talk about one of my favorite topics, geospatial, and one of the most exciting developments in St. Louis since last year, the Taylor Geospatial Institute. Simply, geospatial technology is mapping technology, the technology behind Google Maps that we use every day when we go for shopping or going to places, right? Every time we make a phone call or check weather, we are using geospatial technologies, the data that are provided by satellites and some supercomputing facilities, right? So it's everywhere. When I explain geospatial technology to my students, though, I tell them the geospatial science and technology is a high-tech discipline that studies people, places, and processes, what's happening on Earth, the moon, and beyond, with spatially indexed, time-stamped data sets. It overlaps with, in a significant extent, with computer science, engineering, and earth sciences. We utilize AI, machine learning, cloud computing, all those technology to analyze massive amount of data to make informed decision-making, whether about its environment or agriculture and those areas.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Allison, I mean, you're a plant biologist, and you're seeing this convergence with geospatial technology now coming into the plant biology disciplines. How would you add to that? I mean, how do you see geospatial technology and how you define it?
Sure. Well, thanks, Jason, and welcome, everybody. It's so nice to be back here in the Conversations event. To be honest, geospatial data was a new term for me when I first heard it, and I wasn't, it took me some time to really grasp what this is and what it means. So when I think about geospatial data, I think about information that is collected, and that is, as Vasit said, stamped in terms of where that piece of information is collected and when that information is collected. And as soon as I began to understand what this means as a plant biologist, it means we can collect a lot of information about plants in the field and take into account where they are and also when those observations were made. And this is really important, as I think we'll talk about in a minute, for how we optimize agriculture for the future and deliver on the mission of the Danforth Center.
That's really helpful, I think, to understand. It's exciting to see these two disciplines coming together. Vasit, you know, we talked about, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the launch of the Taylor Geospatial Institute. I mean, this was huge news not only in St. Louis, but really around the world. And can you help us all as we're trying to understand this exciting new institute, what it is and what are the pillars upon which the Taylor Geospatial Institute is based?
Thank you, Jason. Before I get to Taylor Geospatial Institute, let me take a step back and talk about the history a little bit. In the same way, 20 more years ago, Dr. Donald Danforth convened a group of civic leaders, scholars, and developed a vision to establish Taylor Geospatial Institute, Danforth Plant Science Center. In the same way, after NGA announced its relocation of its west headquarters to North St. Louis, a lot of us in St. Louis excited about that, seeing that as a new way of economic opportunity for St. Louis. So a group of folks came together and formed a team called GeoFutures Coalition. And the coalition did their study, released a report, a strategic roadmap for St. Louis to become global center for geospatial science. And then that report, that strategic roadmap, called for a number of things, one of which is to create a regional research collaborative. With a legacy gift from Andrew Taylor, the chairman of Enterprise Holdings, Taylor Geospatial Institute was established to lead the nation in geospatial science by building that world-class research collaborative called by the strategic roadmap. So it was established in April 22. It's a consortium of 8 outstanding research institutions in the Midwest, and Danforth Plant Science Center is a founding member, and other members include St. Louis University, Harstow State University, Washington University in St. Louis, University of Missouri in St. Louis, Missouri University of Science and Technology, University of Missouri, and University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. So our vision, the Institute's vision, is to be the nation's lead in geospatial science and accelerate St. Louis's development as a global geospatial center of excellence. And our mission is to advance geospatial science research through multi-institutional, interdisciplinary collaboration in order to create new innovations to address grand societal challenges from food security to health and national security, a number of other issues. So we have 4 core research pillars, and one of which is core geospatial science, and 2 food systems, and then health systems and national security. And those are developed based on our collective strengths that the 8 partner institutions can bring together, where Taylor Geospatial can excel and be the true national leader in this discipline.
That is an impressive
Thank you.
group of institutions coming together under one roof to solve the big problems that we all face. It is absolutely extraordinary. And I think, as Vasa was sharing, one of those is food security, right? We've got to feed a growing global planet and get food, obviously, to those who need it. And that is some of the work that was taking place here at the Danforth Center. Allison, how are you seeing the application already of geospatial technology to solve the problems of food security?
Yeah, great question. I think we're just really seeing the tip of the iceberg right now in terms of how these data, these geospatial data, can be used to improve agriculture. So as Vasant mentioned, food security is one of the major pillars of the Taylor Geospatial Institute. And one of the things that the Institute is doing is developing the technology and different ways in which it can be applied. So for food security, we're really thinking about 2 categories of activities, at least in my mind. One is, how can we make agriculture today better? How can we use images that are sensed from drones, for example, to identify disease within a field, to spot drought stress within a large, maybe on a county level, county type of level, and to try to enable something called precision agriculture, which some of you may have heard of, which is essentially using remotely sensed geospatial data to improve how our crops are growing today. But there's another piece of the puzzle that is particularly exciting to me here, which is how we can use geospatial data to re-envision crops and food systems of the future. So as you said, Jason, we are trying to feed a growing population in a changing climate. And this is not a trivial task that we have ahead of us. So here at the Danforth Center, we're using geospatial data to try to understand what our crops and food systems of the future might be. How can we develop plants that feed people with the highest possible nutrition, but while they're doing that, they're providing beneficial services for the environment? And so through data that are sensed perhaps in the soil, that are sensed remotely from specialized cameras flying on drones, and analytical systems that link those two with the physical features of the plants that we can observe on the ground, that allows scientists to understand how plants work, and it allows breeders to develop improved varieties and maybe even domesticate a few new crops. So it's really unprecedented, I think, how we can use this. And as a scientist here at the Danforth Center, I feel so lucky that the Taylor Geospatial Institute is here, just down the road. Vasid and I have been working together for 15 years. We're friends. And we're able to build these connections very quickly and to just launch this next generation of science. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, wonderful. If I may, to add just one quick comment, the power of geospatial technology with satellites, drones, we can collect data sets multiple times a day for any spot on the planet. So, which allows us, to look at not just issues happening to crops here, but at global scale, we can create daily maps of crop productivity, disease, stress level, and from that we can predict yield from national to global scale, and that helps us to make better decisions about the policy, and kind of other food security issues. So that's actually another. I just wanted to add to that point that the power of geospatial.
And if I could add a little bit to that too. I think the Danforth Center is very well known for our work here in the labs and in the greenhouses, where we're really advancing our basic understanding of plant biology. But we've become, the scientific community more broadly is beginning to really focus also on plants in the field. But our major bottleneck is data collection. And it's very hard to staff a team. It's actually impossible that is large enough to collect the type of data that we really need to collect to understand how plants are interacting with their environment. So it's these geospatial tools that really allow us to scale up our operations and to understand these critical plant environment interactions, which we really haven't been able to do yet.
That's excellent. You can feel the excitement as scientists. You can see it on your faces, just how these tools are going to solve these problems, and just how exciting it must be to be on the forefront of that, and for that to be happening here.
Yeah, and to be fair, these are still very much in development. This is just the beginning, and there is a lot of work to do. I know. Sure. So.
Well, maybe thinking of both beginnings and more mature institutions, there's the Danforth Center now in 25 years. The Taylor Geospatial Institute approaching its one-year anniversary. And they're both collaborative institutions now, but there's also been a lot of parallels drawn to say the Taylor Geospatial Institute is the Danforth Center of geospatial technology, because we have such a deep intuitive understanding of the role of this critical research institute right here in St. Louis and how much global prominence it's brought us. How do you see those parallels between the Taylor Geospatial Institute and the Danforth Center? Vasid, I don't know, maybe start with you, because you're here in year one, and seeing it from that perspective first.
Thanks, Jason, for the wonderful question. Danforth Plant Science Center, in my view, is an excellent model, a blueprint for Taylor Geospatial Institute's success. In fact, long before we established Taylor Geospatial Institute, in 2018, we were working to build SLU's Geospatial Institute through an internal funding. And since that time, I've been studying the success of the amazing journey of Danforth Plant Science Center, and using that as a model for our aspirations to become the next big thing like Danforth Plant Science Center in St. Louis for this region. And in many ways, I mean, we see it's a perfect model, a parallel that guide the Taylor Geospatial Institute's future. Now, in terms of impact, I think TGI, Taylor Geospatial Institute, will have much greater impact in for geospatial science than Danforth Plant Science Center has had in plant science for a number of reasons. One, geospatial science is still relatively not immature compared to plant science or biology, even when it was 20 years ago, right? So TGI is well-positioned, incredibly well-positioned to have a national impact on the future of geospatial science. The funding opportunities, education, workforce training, national security. So we are in a really good position. And then most importantly for this region, in my view, we are today in a much better position in terms of the work has already done in geospatial science compared to the work done 20 years ago in plant science. We have very strong collaborative network, a great fabric, right, that makes this ecosystem, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, a major federal agency in this, as a cornerstone for geospatial academic institutions, right? And then great work like GeoFutures Coalition, and the strategic roadmap was already developed. We don't have to invent. And then 3, TGI is a partnership, consortium of 8 institutions. It has tremendous potential, leveraging those strengths, unique capabilities of those 8 institutions to create something very significant, something like a global impact, right? And lastly, which is very important, is we do have a blueprint, which is the Danforth Plant Science Center. We don't have to reinvent the wheel in many ways. There's a lot of things we can learn and guide TGI and its success.
That makes a lot of sense. Allison.
Yeah, I'll just add to that and share. I moved to St. Louis in 1998. And so although I didn't become affiliated formally with the Danforth Center until 2018, I saw this institution grow over the years, the Danforth Plant Science Center. And I see and I saw that the Danforth Center was built on a city in a region that had a really strong foundation in plant science and agribusiness, in a spirit of collaboration and collegiality. And that nature of St. Louis, I really think helped make what the Danforth Center has been able to do and grow into in the last 25 years. And of course, the Danforth Center is the world's largest independent plant research institution, and of course, the best. I see, well, I mean, that's true.
We can applaud that.
But I see that was possible because of this incredibly strong foundation that propelled the Institute forward at its founding. And so what I see, Vasit, is I see a parallel here, and that TGI is able and enabled by the Danforth Center and other regional organizations. So just as that is what propelled the Danforth Center, among other things, in my opinion, that is what is helping to propel TGI. It's not only the Danforth Center, but I think having this strong connection and having the geographic proximity and having the scientific community and scientific talent here, I think it would probably be difficult to see a similar level of success with TGI if this was not happening in the St. Louis region. Yeah. So that phrase of standing on the shoulders of giants, I think that's how this city has worked. And I really am beginning to see this amplifying property where Danforth Center was possible because what was here before, and TGI is just building on top of that, which is, I think that's a really powerful attribute of this region. So if this is what we can achieve in 25 years, what's next?
I love it. We're going to have to be ambitious, and I think having two best-in-class global research institutions at the forefront of solving these big challenges is nothing but a positive for the future of this region.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think it would take 25 years for us.
The market economy is in play here tonight. Friendly competition.
No, for the reasons I mentioned, just a number of reasons there, and we are in a much TGI is in a much better position today than I believe Danforth Science Center was in 20 years ago for a number of reasons. On that, a simple example. National Geospatial Intelligence Agency is building $2 billion headquarters there. And not just that, the cash flow from federal government to maintain that facility for decades, right? That's in my view, an irrigation system for this region for economic development and moving the region forward. And there are 350 companies, many of them are global companies, orbiting around NGA to support its mission. And they are hiring our students, providing job opportunities. That's a very powerful resources and a factor when we talk about Taylor Geospatial Institute. So I don't believe it would take another 20 years for us to be there.
I hope you're right.
Let's see.
I love it. Well, let's, we're talking about the growth that's coming from these industries, and you can look around the Danforth Center and see the new corporate headquarters, creating new publicly traded companies like Benson Hill, some of the big successes with geospatial already, attracting new companies to come here and be a part of this. It's exciting, but, one of the things that this region is embracing coming out of the pandemic is it's not enough just to grow, but we got to work with intention to reduce barriers and make sure that we are embracing inclusive growth as our North Star, so that no matter what zip code, what neighborhood you are from, that the opportunities we create are really within reach. It's not theoretical, but it really is impacting real lives. And that was foundational to the 2030 jobs plan. And so I wonder, Vasa, we can start with you, kind of how you see, the importance and how inclusive economic development is being embraced through this new industry sector taking root in St. Louis.
No, it's very important for TGI. And TGI Taylor Geospatial Institute has 8 members who are part of TGI, who will bring very different contributions, a set of capabilities that bring to the table to fostering inclusive growth, economic development. Harriston State University, one of the HBCUs, one of a few several 2 dozen or more HBCUs in the nation, who's providing cutting-edge, education, research in partnership with NGA, and it is a founding member of Taylor Geospatial Institute, which is a very powerful message. And we have been creating with Harriston State University bridge programs where students from Harriston State University come to SLU for advanced degrees, taking courses. We are jointly hiring faculty, which is very, very rare in academia, but jointly hiring faculty between 2 universities. And you can see those hires happening between a center and university, but very rare in academic institutions, right? We are doing this. We are training students from Harriston State University. collaboratively, and that is very important. And then the other piece is that in partnership with the state of Missouri, we are creating Taylor TGI Academy. And basically it stands for Taylor Geospatial Institute Advanced Computing, Analytics, and Big Data Education for Missouri. That acronym, TGI Academy is the acronym for that title. But what we are doing there is that we are building high-performance computing facilities and building micro-credentials in photogrammetry, geospatial technologies, and then bringing students from Harstow State University and the consortium in general to train underrepresented students. The other couple of things we are doing in TGI, we start training the next generation geospatial leaders from underrepresented community through intentionally built programs like Taylor Diversity Fellowship. The fellowship offers really a very competitive package to bring folks to the region and to the programs in the partner institutions. So we provide funding to them so they can get their education, training, and in a variety of ways. So it is very important for TGI's mission, and we are doing some real cool work to advance diversity in our programs and inclusive economic growth.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Allison, any
I guess
additional perspective on that?
I can add to that, and I'll speak both as a scientist and as a parent. I'm very optimistic about the opportunity and the accessibility of training, both in geospatial applications, but also in plant science and biology more broadly here in St. Louis. And what I'm seeing here, this is happening at the Danforth Center, at the Taylor Geospatial Institute, and elsewhere, is a very intentional, equitable series of opportunities that start really at the pre-K level, maybe even earlier, for kids to begin to explore their interest in science in different ways in different institutions. And I'm seeing that opportunity spread very intentionally so that it reaches all corners of our region, which it hasn't always, but must. The second thing I'm seeing that I really, really love is that there are opportunities at each stage of the game. So from the pre-K to the elementary level to the middle school to the high school and into college and beyond, it's conceivable that kids can really grow in their interests and find within our region opportunities to explore what it is they're into. And I'll just give a quick plug. I was looking at camps at St. Louis University, which has a series of really wonderful summer camps, and I saw a geospatial data camp for high school kids, and it really looks terrific. I think we're going to put our son there this summer, and so we'll see how it goes. But it's a privilege as a parent to be able to have these kind of opportunities, and it's really long overdue, frankly, as a citizen, a member of this region, that we now are working hard to make sure everybody has that opportunity.
That's terrific, and I think we'd be remiss. Correct me if I'm wrong. Our HBCU, Harris Stowe, is now the first and only HBCU in the country to have a national education partnership with the NGA.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's extraordinary.
Yep.
That's
I think it's probably a good reminder for all of us that when intention's baked in on day one, it really is a different set of outcomes. And I just applaud the work that you and this community is doing on that. Speaking of the GeoFutures initiative, from which a lot of the action plan came, how do we do this in a coordinated way and think long term, inspired by the work that Dr. Danforth and many people still here today to drive that vision forward. It was established with similar DNA in that we need to make St. Louis the epicenter. We can solve big problems through science, but we can also help St. Louis reach its full potential by doing that work and making sure that it happens here in our community. So can you maybe share how the Taylor Institute, as you're seeing it kind of in this first 12 months, is advancing those efforts of I guess here we really can say putting St. Louis on the map, and making sure that it really is raising the profile and the prominence of our great metro. Vasit, start with
Sure.
you.
Thanks, Jason. So becoming a global geospatial center of excellence for St. Louis means to me that St. Louis becomes the center of gravity of geospatial innovations, which means, and new technologies like new drones, sensors, satellites, microsatellites, balloons are made in St. Louis, and next generation GPS positioning technologies are invented here, and St. Louis attracts people and companies globally to St. Louis to study and do business, and that's what it means to me to be a global center, right? To do that, first, we have to have a world-class research. And then we are able to, and translate those research to new products, companies, create new business opportunities. And the best way to become that world-class research or create that world-class research, we have to create really strong partnership, collaboration among researchers, institutions. That's where actually Taylor Geospatial Institute is incredibly well positioned, because today's challenge is any research topic, and whether it's about plant science, plant disease detection, or improving food security or health supply chain, it requires radical collaboration. And from institutions, diverse scholars, and TGI is best positioned to do that. So what we have done over the last less than a year time frame, we created incentives about in $15 million of incentives to create that research collaborative in the form of seed grants, postdocs, visiting scholars, and we hire postdocs to PI's labs in partner institutions to help build collaboration. We hire research scientists to develop collaborative proposals. We are investing in computing, drones, data analytics to help researchers do great work. To compete for TGI seed grants, for example, we offer $200K, $75K. Multiple PIs from multiple institutions should collaborate to get that money, and then go after much larger 10x, 20x federal grants, using this and creating some initial data sets. So far, we have about 150 or more researchers, 48 institutions, organizations have been involved in TGI-funded research and various activities.
That's impressive. That's quite a reach in 12 months. Allison, how do you?
Yeah, well, so of course one of the missions of the Danforth Center is to improve the St. Louis region. And the St. Louis is already the global epicenter of plant science. There's over 1,000 plant science PhDs in the region. And I like to joke that the Arch is a giant magnet, because I've seen so many plant scientists leave and then they come right back because there's so much exciting work happening here. But from an economic perspective, the Danforth Center in the 39 North District annually is generating, I think it's over $400 million in economic growth of the region. And so what the Taylor Geospatial Institute offers, and by building St. Louis as a global center of geospatial science, is it just really magnifies what's already happening here, at least in the agricultural space, and allows us to grow faster, bigger, and better. And I think that will just just continue to contribute to this building of a scientific community that is using different types of tools to meet these global challenges that are becoming increasingly pressing by the day.
Yeah, that's big stuff, and that's outstanding that it's happening from our community. Well, I want to make sure we have some quality time here too for your questions from the audience. And I have one that's already come in here, Allison, and it's directed to you, which is, can you give us an example of how geospatial technology today has helped solve a question or a problem in your research program that's taking place now? An early example of that.
Okay. Just to be honest, we're really at the front end of using these data in our research. But just today, I was in my office with a postdoctoral researcher, so there's a PhD level scientist who is actually a postdoc funded by the Taylor Geospatial Institute. And we were looking at some data, and I'm going to try not to get too technical here, but the data were how light is reflected from a leaf. And this is one of the ways that cameras on drones collect information on plants. They sense the reflectance that comes off of a leaf. And there's a lot of questions right now about, well, what does that reflectance signal tell us about what's happening in the plant? And so what we were looking at today is that honestly, we were debating, like, could this actually be right? But it looks like there is a detectable difference in the reflectance patterns that come off the leaves based on the ion concentrations that are in those leaves. There is a clear correlation between the amounts of certain ions in leaves and these reflectance signatures. And what this tells us is the data that could be collected, what might be collected from drones that are measuring similar things, really hold important information about the plant itself. We also saw some evidence that there's some correlation with traits that we see below ground as well, which it really seems crazy, but it might be the case. So how is this helping our research? Where we are right now is we're showing that there is a relationship between the types of geospatial data that Vasid and his institute are collecting and what's actually happening within a plant.
That's interesting. Well, I think we know we did not plan this for tonight. Future Nobel laureate insight discovered today, shared with us. 20 years from now, the glory's coming.
Very preliminary, very preliminary, but kind of exciting.
It is very exciting. Those breakthrough moments, you know, when they come like that, is the genesis of something exciting. Well,
do you have time to comment on that?
Of course.
Yeah. So we see a tree, if it's healthy, it's green, right? And in fall, it turns into beautiful red-blue colors. So we see them, we can see them. So there's chlorophyll or pigments in that plant leaves that absorb certain types of light and reflect certain types of light. We can see what's reflected, right? If a tree is green, it's reflecting green and absorbing the other stuff to create biomass and this, that, right? So we can only see very, very narrow areas of light reflected. But sensors, like the cameras we design, can see much wider spectrum we can see, right? So that's the power of the sensing technology that just like in a hospital, a doctor measures our heartbeat and things like that. We have sensors to measure the photosynthesis, the heartbeat of plants, and as they vibrate or what type of light they are emitting when they are, what they are telling us when they are stressed, water stressed, or there is disease, right? There is an indication of signals we can use sensors to detect that. So that's the kind of power that we can do with visual eye or human capabilities, but sensors can do.
Much more accurately. Well, another question from the audience, this is an interesting one because we're hearing a lot about it, especially over the last just several months, and that's artificial intelligence. I think largely with ChatGPT, led by a St. Louisan, by the way, so we should be proud there. The question is artificial intelligence the same thing as geospatial, or how are they related, since we're hearing so much about both of these scientific areas now?
Great question. So artificial intelligence, in short, simple way, it's about using, the automating the process, the work we do, right? And what we do is we develop algorithms, we train a machine and tell them the patterns and things that after they are trained, the algorithm is developed, then they go off to search the similar patterns and find out their conclusions and things like that. It is a different field, but artificial intelligence advances geospatial science in a very significant way because we have hundreds of thousands of satellites are collecting data day and night. And then, as I mentioned, like one satellite company, Planet, TGI is partner, a strategic partner, collects multiple imagery for any corner of the world every day. That's huge amount of data. It's impossible for even thousands of people sitting on the computer analyzing it. No way, right? The AI machine learning is the only way, we train machines to analyze this data in the way our brains work and extract patterns. So that's the power of AI that help advance geospatial field. We can't do geospatial today without machine learning AI.
Is that right? Allison, any perspective on this?
I guess I would just summarize it by saying that AI and machine learning are ways and approaches that we deal with geospatial data, which are huge data sets across space and also over time. And so this is one of the ways that we can essentially take those observations and boil them down into meaningful pieces of information. I don't know if you would agree.
No, that's a great point.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Another question here for both of you. What do you think is the most exciting challenge that geospatial can solve in the future? Kind of the big human challenge, the big thorny problem that you're most excited about that geospatial can solve?
Okay, well, I'll start.
In the future.
In the future.
In the future.
Well, what I think about in my research and just in general is how we can reconcile food security, how we're going to feed people with our environment, and how can we reconcile food security with ecosystem security. And this is a huge challenge because we all need to eat and we all need to grow that food on our planet. But there's some issues that we're trying to work on. I see geospatial data as a way to speed up how we understand how agriculture impacts the environment and how the environment impacts our crops. And then I'm hopeful that we can use that information again, really to optimize our agricultural systems today, but also build the agricultural systems that we're going to need in the future. So for me, this feels like a really powerful, exciting tool that will facilitate the work that we really need to do now.
That's interesting. Vasa, what will you
Food
say?
security. That's one of the very largest grave challenges of the future, right? And we all know we need to produce 70% more food by 2050. And we have limited arable land, water resources, which is shrinking because of climate change and many other reasons. And at the same time, and the nitrogen use and fertilizer use and its contribution to climate change, right? That's a big issue too. And what geospatial science can help is one, like optimizing the way we grow crops and use nitrogen fertilizers where it's needed at the right time, optimizing water use so we can be more productive, right? And then even developing crops when you to identify a better crop that can grow in environment, you have to grow thousands of varieties and grow in the field many years, watch them, monitor them. And that's the power of geospatial technology with robotics, and to help identify those crops, develop better crops, and that's the future. So that's actually, totally agree with Allison, food security is a major challenge. Geospatial can have a big impact.
Wow. Yeah, nobody wants to go hungry, so I certainly am. That creates a whole other set of challenges around the globe. So I'm glad the brightest minds are working on this before those challenges get even more acute. I had another question here from the audience. Will TGI explore working with federal labs and tech transfer offices and others, government agencies, to facilitate those R&D breakthroughs, getting them out of the lab, out of research, into society? Any early thinking on that?
Oh, no, we are doing it. We are partnering with federal agencies, labs, and industry as well to identify projects that has commercialization potential, the impact, and creating pipelines to bring them to the market. We have been already doing that, and that's actually one of the 4 or 5 priorities of TGI to commercialize research happening in TGI.
Is that, Allison?
My answer to that was yes. Yes, it will.
As a lawyer that got people ready for depositions, that's always the right answer. One word. Well, we're going to have one final question here. Let's assume, the Danforth Center and the region's role as the global innovator in the future of food and agricultural technologies just continues to reach smashing success. And the Taylor Geospatial Institute achieves a similar level of success. From your perspective, kind of stepping back as scientists, what does that really mean to the region's economy and our global relevance?
I see the region will become a national geospatial hub. We could call it geospatial Silicon Prairie, and it could be even larger than Silicon Valley because of the huge potential of geospatial science and technology. And there's so many things happening, developments happening. It will have a big impact for St. Louis and its sustainability and future developments as well. It will attract talent, businesses globally. I think one thing I would like to note, though, we have to find a balance between attracting talent companies to the region with supporting what we already have, the people, the companies here, with incentives, and we have the opportunity to train thousands of students, leaders, and providing opportunity to them to build this geospatial Silicon Valley and to make St. Louis as a nucleus of next industrial revolution. I think that's the type of opportunity I see for St. Louis.
That's terrific.
Yeah, and St. Louis is already a global leader in plant science, and I think what is happening now with the Taylor Geospatial Institute is really leading to this incredible momentum of growth in this critical area. I mean, how are we going to do this? How are we going to achieve food security and do it in a way that is environmentally manageable? And I think St. Louis is as well positioned as anywhere in the world right now, and maybe better, to really make some progress on this critical question, build the businesses associated, needed in the process, and lift our entire region up as we solve these global challenges. There's no other way around it. We have to do it, and we will, and I think that it will happen here.
That is amazing, and that's probably a good point. In some ways, it is what Dr. Danforth always challenged us to do. And it is exciting to see that that's exactly what's playing out here, and that it really is inspiring that next generation. Well, Vasit, Allison, thank you so much tonight. This has been incredible. Thank you for all the work that you're doing, and we wish all of you the very best and as you continue to push this sector forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. Glad to be here.
With that, we'll welcome back Dr. Jim Carrington to close us out.
All right, thank you. Wow, what an interesting and motivating discussion. First things first, though, it's 9-9, tied, top of the ninth. They had a lead, but we have our first blown save staring us in the face right now. I just wanted to wrap up with a couple of points. First of all, I want to give an example of what the Danforth Center is doing with the TGI. So we're one of the founding partners. What do we do? What people are going and doing something. What is it? I'll give you one example. We just purchased a large field site just over the Missouri River in St. Charles County, 140-acre site that will be the Danforth Center farm, the field research site. With the TGI as a partner, Vasit as an exceptional scientist and his team, we have access to drones and advanced sensor technology and a massive computing infrastructure that allows us now to do daily flights with drones or regular flights, depending on what the experiment is, over all of the plants in the farm. And that is enabling discovery at a level that is really unprecedented for us. Just an example. I was intrigued, this is my second point, I was intrigued by the conversation early about, I guess, lessons learned or lessons that could be learned from the Danforth Center that the TGI can use going forward. It just so happens I have those lessons right here. I will now share them. Pay attention, Vasit. There are three things that I think you need to do. Number one, and these are things that the Danforth Center has done, you need to have the community behind you. Andy Taylor was your catalytic force in getting it together, getting the TGI together. Our catalytic force was Bill Danforth. I can't imagine two better catalytic forces representing the community as a whole behind our two organizations. That's a high predictor of success, in my opinion. Number two, partnerships are everything. When you created the TGI, you didn't do it as a standalone institution. You did it as a partnership. Partnerships are everything to the Danforth Center. They're not partnerships that we try to wedge our way into. They're partnerships in which we have an expertise foothold in something. And our ideal partners are those who have other expertise footholds, because the key to good partnerships is complementarity and a willingness to work together with our complementary sets of expertise and our talents. By the way, number one, check. Number two, check for TGI. And then the third is, and I really strongly believe this, and it's borrowed from Steve Jobs. If you want to succeed, recruit people who are really good at stuff. Those of you who hang around the Danforth Center know we've got really good people. You're looking at one up here in Allison Miller. Really good people make all the difference. And the way that you're building TGI, you're building it, you're basing it on some really exceptional talent here in the region, and that's going to recruit other exceptional talent, and that's really the not-so-secret sauce, I think, for success of TGI. So, Vasit, thank you so much for your leadership of TGI and your partnership with the Danforth Center, and thank you for participating tonight. Allison Miller, I say thank you an awful lot, so thanks again for participating in this interesting discussion tonight and for all of the leadership you provide here at the Danforth Center. Jason, you are doing an awful lot for our community. I hope everybody appreciates that the forces for good in St. Louis, many of those forces for good are really centered in Jason's office down at Greater St. Louis. So thank you so much for what you're doing for our community. Thank you for moderating the session tonight. And the problem with doing a great job as a partner with us is we invite you back to do it again. So we hope to have you hosting and moderating more sessions just like this in the future.
Thank you.
Finally, thank all of you for coming. This was a terrific turnout. We have a full house. You have options of what to do. You could have gone to the Cardinals game, but you came here instead. We really appreciate that. Thank you for coming, and have a safe drive home. Take care.